I think in my last audio commentary, I had 68 and my opponent had like 250 APM. I mean, it's something ridiculous like that. Well, basically, as I included my hotkeys today, I'm just going to tell you guys that APM really doesn't necessarily matter that much. It's just a rough estimate to how many actions you do during the game. Now, an action can include a mouse button click right or left. It can include the Alt key. It can be a hotkey. Any button you press, basically anything you do on your keyboard or your mouse is considered an action. So, if you're spamming waypoints, those are actions. And your average actions per minute, that includes the waypoint spamming at the beginning of the game. That includes the alt spamming in the middle of the game. And that includes you beating down your opponent's ass at the end of the game and pressing the alt key over and over again just to make your APM look really good. So when someone watches your replay, they think, oh, geez, this guy is really good. His APM is 250. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you guys about what's different about the Asia server versus East and West. Asia and Europe are kind of known for their high APMs. Also, their strategies are a little more, I wouldn't say mainstream, but you don't really see crazy things on Asia. You see things that are, definite strategies that everyone knows works. So, with Undead, you see the Gargoyle strategy a lot. You see Gargoyle Rush all the time. You don't necessarily see Dreadlord Mass Ghouls. That's something I've been playing Asia for quite some time now, and I've played my fair share of Undead, Human, Orc, and Night Elf players. And when I play Night Elf players, I generally see Demon Hunter Tech to Bears, and I see Priestess of the Moon Mass Hunts. When I play Orc, I see Demolisher Grunt, I see Grunt Raider, and I see Wyvern Bloodlust. I mean, that's something you just see a lot there. When I play human players, I see Tech, Caster, Rifle, Breaker. That's all I see from human players on Asia. Caster, Rifle, Breaker. Now, I certainly played West a certain time, for a very long time. And on East, sometimes I saw some pretty crazy things. Like I saw, Mass Ghouls, Dreadlord, fast expansion. Humans always fast expanded. Sometimes I saw some pretty crazy strategies from Orc, like mass headhunters and Tauren Chieftain. There's a lot of crazy stuff, but their micro and APM was pretty low, and the strategies weren't very effective. But East players, West players are really drilled into, you need to have that high APM. So you see a lot of mediocre players and above average players, spamming a lot of waypoints and stuff like that, and just to make them feel a little better about having a high APM. But high APM doesn't really matter, and it only matters really at the Gosu level, and you guys are probably thinking, well, why does it only matter at the Gosu level? Well, when someone is at the same skill level as you, and you're doing more than your opponent, then you're going to win. When you're playing ladder, obviously there's people who are not at your skill level. Either they're above or below you. So when you're doing more than your opponent, it really doesn't matter if you're a better player and you make better decisions. Decision making and strategy is definitely one of the hugest parts about winning a game of Warcraft. Basically, if you're thinking more than your opponent, that's not displayed in your actions per minute, really. So, during that game, I was certainly outthinking my opponent, big time. I mean, I was in his face, and I knew he wasn't going to be at his base, and when he was going to be to his base, I pretended like I was not there, and I would wait in the corner and wait for him to leave, and I'd run back into his base when I knew he was on his way to creep. He summoned his militia, and he was sending it to the top of his map. I knew he was going to need to creep there because his militia are going to time out pretty soon. So I would just wait, and he thought, oh, okay, good. Maybe he went out to go creep, and he realized that I'm already in this vicinity. So he ran off to go creep, and I ran back with my Demon Hunter. While I'm beating on all his peasants and killing his towers, I'm out creeping with my Panda Brewmaster and making money and making experience and picking up items and clearing up areas for me to expand. So basically, even though my opponent was able to get an expansion up, he wasn't able to keep up with me in production or in resources because he was spending all his resources trying to keep my Demon Hunter from attacking him. Now, you guys are probably thinking, well, why didn't he build a tower? Isn't it more efficient to build a tower? Well, I do see on East, I do see on Asia, a lot of human players don't like spending the time to build towers because number one, they get in the way. Number two, they take up early game money when you could be spending that money on units so you can be creeping. And number three, why do the human players don't build towers? Because they see other Gosu human players that they watch replays of not building towers. Now, why can those players get away with not building towers? Because, number one, their APM is really high because they know what they're doing. When they have APM, those are real actions per minute. Those aren't waypoint spamming. Yeah, they spam waypoints at the beginning of the game. That's probably because they're bored. Probably because they do want their APM to show up a little higher. But you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. In battle, their APM is probably 300. So in battle, my APM is probably lower than when I am running around the map, because instead of like clicking the Alt button and doing all that stuff, I kind of hover my mouse clicker above their units and manually check their hit points. That's not very smart, but you know, that's kind of how I got into it. Another thing you will notice, I haven't really used a lot of my own hotkeys that I've been talking about. I still haven't gotten around to practicing that. If you will notice, if you load up replays from like Grubby or SK, Wizard, all those people who are like extremely Gosu, you will notice that all their hotkeys are like 1 through 6 are filled up, and they use them too. It's not like they just make them and don't use it. They use every single hotkey. They're so focused on doing so much during the game that they can't spend any time trying to think about what they have to do. It almost has to be automatic. So basically, that's where the high APM myth comes from. A lot of people see all these Gosu players with high APM, so therefore they think to be good and considered a good player, they need to have high APM, and this is not necessarily true. Now, I was talking to Grubby not too long ago, and he told me, you know, my APM really sucked ass, and he says there's no excuse why I should be lower than 100 APM. Now, the reason why this is true is because if I want to try and compete with players at his level, which that's the conversation we were talking about, I can't have an APM of 70. I can't have an APM of 100. I can't have an APM of 150, because there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with people on his level who are doing 4 or 5 times as many things as I am at one time. Now back to the replay. You guys, now I was talking about the multitasking that I was doing. Now I was creeping and I was harassing. Is that Gosu? No, it is not. Yeah, it looks cool, but I'm going to tell you one thing and probably clarify this for you guys. While I was harassing and while I was creeping, was I expanding? No. Was I scouting? No. Was I doing any micro? No. And was I doing any macro? Or was I building any units while I was doing all this stuff? Again, no. Now, when you look at someone like Grubby, or any of those other players, anybody from SK, all those high-level players who are winning all the tournaments and stuff, now, when they're creeping and stuff like that, you know, you probably don't see all the things that they're really doing behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, they're probably hitting the space key and going back to their base, building wisps, scouting. Sometimes you see players, while they're creeping, scouting 2 different locations at the same time. And not only are they just running a wisp or whatever over there, but they're also, you know, shift clicking it around the map to be continually scouting around the map so that they can see what their opponent is doing and where they're located, so see if it's safe for them to creep. Now, for someone at my skill level, that's a little bit beyond me. You know, I can't really be shift clicking things around the map and trying to find my opponent while I'm actually creeping and trying to build things at my base at the same time. But for these guys, when they're playing at the professional level, this is one thing that, you know, just really, it's really amazing if you kind of think about it. I mean, they're doing so many actions. It's just like, boom, they're building buildings. Boom, they're doing this, they're doing that. So, in reality, when you saw this replay, you guys probably thought it was, you know, pretty good. You know, you probably thought, wow, Mr.Cygnus really took out this high-level human player by constantly harassing him and creeping at the same time. Well, that's only 2 actions per minute. I mean, that's only 2 actions at one time. That's not necessarily 3 actions, or 4 actions, or 5 actions. You didn't see me using my hotkeys. You didn't see me using 3, 4, 5, and 6. I didn't hotkey my altar. I wasn't upgrading things while I was creeping. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just basically using a strategy that I've been working on and putting it to good use. So basically, I hope you guys, I hope that really clarifies what APM is really all about. It's really only good when you're comparing people against other people of the same skill level. It doesn't really work for comparing somebody who's very good against someone who's not so good. I know a lot of players who are who are not very good at all, who probably have more actions per minute than I do. So that's just a little food for thought for you guys. So I'm not necessarily that good of a player yet. You know, I'm still trying to bump myself into the skill level of maybe some of these higher level really good players, these pro gamers. It takes a lot of work, so that's basically what I'm working on. So needless to say, I know what I need to improve on, and the real goal for you guys is knowing what you need to improve on. So that's basically why you probably download audios, is you want to hear new strategies, you want to hear new ways to improve. So anyways, on to the hotkeys. I included my hotkeys in a little text file included with this audio. Basically, the hotkeys set up custom are only for Night Elf. I'm sorry, human players, Orc, and Undead. If I get enough requests, I will actually work on hotkeys for all you other people. But basically, the whole point behind my hotkeys is I searched out a lot of places over the internet. I looked at Keycraft and all these other, and I took ideas from each program, and I kind of wrote them down on paper, and it took me many hours, actually, to try and work out the perfect set of hotkeys. Now, fortunately for all you players out there who haven't been using hotkeys before, or downloaded my audio special with Grubby and listened to that, basically, your advantage here is that you get to learn all these hotkeys, and it'll be a lot better than trying to use the hotkeys that were given to you by the default option. So, anyways, basically, I took every hotkey that was on the right side of the keyboard and I included it onto the left side of the keyboard to make it really easy. For example, put your fingers on A, S, D, and F. Now, say you have a bear. If you want it to roar, you press Z. If you want a Druid of the Claw to cast Cyclone, you press X. If you want it to cast Fairy Fire, you press Z. All the unit special abilities, Dispel, are all set on Z. If they have a secondary option, it's set on X. Now, as for building units, I put the corresponding picture of the game to the corresponding location on the keyboard. For example, Archer is located on Q. Huntress is located on W. Glaive Thrower is located on E. So, if you want an Archer and you have your hands on the keyboard, every unit for building is included on Q, W, E, and R. For example, Archer, Huntress, Glaive Thrower. Dryad, Bear, Mountain Giant. Mountain Giant E, Bear, W, Q, Dryad. As for the Ancient of Wind, I have you'll have Fairy Dragon E, you'll have Hippogriff Q, and you'll have Druid of the Talon W, and so forth. As for skills for heroes and stuff like that, I have them located as well. So you'll have S for the Warden, D for the Demon Hunter, F for the Keeper of the Grove, and A for A is set for the Priestess of the Moon. And as for using skills, you want Mana Burn, Z. You want Immolation, X. And if you want to pick the skill of Evasion, you press C. And V is always the ultimate. So that's how it goes there. Basically, for upgrades, for attack, for the archers would be A. Attack for the bears is S. Armor for the archers is Z. Armor for the bears is X, lore / sentinel upgrades. So basically, if you want any more thought about this, go into the actual text file itself and locate and go ahead and observe where I hotkeyed all the unit's abilities and upgrades to the corresponding keys, and try and memorize it from there. I should have thought of actually writing down a little text file to explain all this, but basically by looking inside there, you'll get the rough idea. Load up a custom game in single player and actually try and look and see how I set up the hotkeys. And if you remember them the way they are, it's going to work really well for you and really fast. I also try to keep as many of the hotkeys for building actual buildings themselves as similar as possible. I always set the build key as A, so you have to click A to build. So if you press A, build, A, altars, you press AA, that'll give you an altar. AS is Moonwell. AF is lore, AW is wind, AR is Ancient of War, AT is tree, and AR is for tower. So that would be like an Ancient Protector, would be an R tower. So I put AQ for the shop, and I believe I set AE as for the Hunter's Hall. Yeah, AE. And that's pretty automatic for me. I have to kind of think about it, but that's basically how I set it up. So if you guys want to play around with it, go ahead and give it a shot. It should work out really well for you. It's really quick, and it keeps things very compact. Also, I almost forgot, this is pretty important. Q is move, A is attack, S is stop. So when you're using your hotkeys like 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 1Q, 2Q, that's for surrounding, you know. It makes it really easy. Instead of trying to press move with the M key, which is all the way over there, and it's like you're going to take your pinky and your thumb and try and surround somebody. Screw that shit. So I fixed it up and I put it in there just like that. So anyways, hopefully that works out for you guys. I hope that APM thing clarifies a few things for you guys. Now, I said I would read 1 PM out. I'm going to read this out because it's from Bookend. He's a pretty cool guy, and basically he asked a really good question. I've never been asked a question like this before, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I definitely like to read unique PMs. By the way, thanks guys. Keep sending in the funny videos. Those are great. I'm going to save the shout-outs for maybe another audio sometime. But anyways, the PM starts out as such. It starts out, Dear Mr. Cygnus, I'll be giving a speech in a marketing class soon, and I need some advice. I'll be discussing how Warcraft gives you the skills in real life to succeed. There's a rough outline of what I'll be talking about. I need your expert advice to make this pretty good. Anyways, he starts out like this. I guess this opening part of the speech is something like, Warcraft changed my life, and it can change yours. About 1 year ago, I wasn't the study you see me as today. I had a bad attitude, low self-esteem, and a lack of solutions. But soon, that was all changed as I was introduced to something new, something amazing. I had no idea what I was going into. I didn't take long for myself to be hooked. I was addicted. I was shown to a new world. I will take you through the twisted meadows and across the 2 rivers into the world known as Warcraft. Anyways, a basic outline, he says that some topics he's thinking about talking about in his speech to his marketing class will include things on increasing hand-eye coordination, teaching the efficient multitasking, encourages teamwork, and the diversity in the workforce. And then it continues, Warcraft is not just a game, it prepares you for life. It will give you the necessary skills to succeed in not only online games, but in marketing programs and in the workforce. Nothing preached more than teamwork and the support here at BCIT. Okay, I guess that's the company he's talking about. Nothing can strengthen those attributes more than Warcraft. Anyways, on my thoughts, I was kind of thinking about this for a while, actually, as I was driving down the road today after school. I was thinking, that's a pretty good point, If it wasn't for Warcraft, I think I wouldn't have learned a lot of things that I've learned. I've learned how to, definitely working with the web page that I work for, WCReplays.com. That's definitely brought upon by Warcraft. I learned how things, what kind of things are needed to run a web page. It's extremely, huge amount of work. I mean, I really didn't realize it until actually I became staff and started working for them. I didn't realize that, all the things that go on in the world that are brought together in one game and on one site. You learn a lot of things when it comes to culture. I learned that, you can even see this just by playing on East as opposed to Asia. People think differently over there. You take one game. The game is the same for everybody. You build a Huntress, it's the same dang unit for everybody. But you will see that those people over there play a lot different than the people over here. Different strategies, different ways of doing things. Also, you notice that in East, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of trash talking. You don't really see that on Asia. It's a real different culture, and yeah, you do learn a lot about hand-eye coordination. That's true. I mean, it's a thinking game. Warcraft, the reason why I like it is because it's definitely probably one of the most thinking-involved games in the world. I mean, besides StarCraft, I mean, yeah, you can play Counter-Strike. It involves some thinking there, but you know, you're shooting somebody. It's like, okay, either I move left, duck, or move right. You know, this game, it's like, okay, let's see here. I'm playing one of the 4 races. Basically, I need to find out what my opponent is going to be doing so that I can counter that. Another game like this is chess. Another game like this is poker. I mean, all those games are related. Warcraft, chess, and poker. You're trying to outsmart your opponent. So that's just something to think about. Another thing that's known about Warcraft is it's a worldwide game. You will here's something you can look at, Bookend. Do a search for like some journal articles, some a credible source on the gaming. How can I put this? Games in Korea. Korea is like a huge place for games. I mean, gaming is so huge over there. It's like they put video games on cereal boxes. Not only kids play video games, but parents play video games over there. It's kind of a way of teaching, you know, they see it as a way of teaching their children how to think and outsmart people. That's why gaming is so huge in Asia and in Europe. Not so much here in the United States. People in the United States think, oh, video games, that's just a big waste of time. Video games is just going to make you stupid. You know, that's a big thing about here in the United States. That's all you hear about on the news. But it's not so much that in Asia. In Asia, they see video games as a way to test your knowledge versus other people in the world. Basically, it's a thinking game. You're trying to outsmart your opponent. You're trying to beat him, and you can beat your opponent by doing more than your opponent, and by outsmarting your opponent. It's all that put together. So, yeah, it can really change you. Makes you think more. Makes you appreciate other people. Also, you know, as could be said for the internet, it kind of connects you to other people. You get to talk to people from other sides of the world. You see how they think, and you know, try and learn from them. Warcraft does encourage you to work as a team. It's just all these things put together. I mean, there's so much to talk about. That would make a fantastic speech. So, anyways, after you make that speech, if you do write it down by chance, let me get a copy of that. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe I'll even include it into my audio or something like that if you do write it down or something like that. So, anyways, that's just something to think about. That's something for everybody to think about. I mean, that would make a great article to actually write up for WCR. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. It looks like he has some pretty good ideas. And yeah, it does teach you to be competitive too. You've got to think of it this way: the world is a competitive world. It's business. You need to be one notch up above the next person. So it does kind of teach you that. You got to be the best to succeed. So, you know, I mean, it seems kind of wrong, but it's very true. You know, you need to think like that. So it's definitely a fun game. I love it. That's why I do my audio commentaries, but also that's very true. So thanks for the PM, Bookend. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope this kind of clarifies the APM myth here finally once and for all. I'm going to try and improve myself. Hopefully you guys can improve yourself. Hope you all learned a little something about multitasking, so that'll help you multitask when it comes to your accounting or your business classes. So anyways, alright, thanks a lot everyone for listening. Maybe I'll catch you guys next time. See you in about a week or so. Alright guys, stay cool. Late.